Hello again, Milpro Akron, here with another video. This one is a follow-up to my video on transitioning, about slinging the rifle in a certain way and how I do it with a 2-point sling, etc. Millerusaf brought up some interesting questions in the comments section, and I was trying to address them in responding to the comments, and I really just wasn't happy with the way that was coming out. So I figured, easy enough, I'll just make another video and try to address those. First and foremost, the question is about transitioning from right shoulder to left shoulder when you're cornering around different obstacles. That is a difficult situation with the type of slinging situation that I showed you. Okay, with a 2-point sling slung over the same way so that it hangs at the low ready. So if you're in a situation where you absolutely have to transition over to the left shoulder, you're going to have to unsling that rifle at some point. But the reason why I talk about those things, and first let me clarify the intent of, this is the commander's intent, okay, for the Milpro Akron channel. This is not an infantry training channel. This is not a spec ops training channel. I put this channel together and started making videos because I wanted to give people, individual people, some options and some techniques and some tactics that would help them improve their survivability in a shit-hits-the-fan situation, whether you're dealing with an armed robbery, a home invasion, or a post-apocalyptic zombie attack. It doesn't matter. But my videos are geared towards the individual. That's why I don't talk about teams, squads, platoons, or communities or colonies or anything like that, because I'm all about individual training and being able to improve the survivability of the individual, because that's what I'm concerned with. Bottom line, when the shit really does hit the fan for you, you're going to be alone. You're going to be by yourself. You're not going to have a fire team with you. You're certainly not going to have a squad with you. You're not going to have a platoon with you. You're going to be alone, and at the most it's going to be you, the trained and prepared individual, with maybe some hangers on that are untrained. So now it's you and you're responsible for them. So it all comes down to your training, your level of preparedness, and your techniques and tactics that you use. So yes, in all the infantry manuals on urban warfare, clearing buildings, etc., all your Spec Ops guys train this way as well, with your Navy SEALs, your Green Berets, your Delta guys, your Army Rangers. Train so that when you're moving through a building, clearing a building, searching, doing a search and cordon, or whatever you're doing, they are going to change from left shoulder to right shoulder depending on the angle that they're passing, or the intersection in the building, what they're doing. They are going to be doing that. And it's going to be a continuous transition as you're doing that. But you're not alone. You have at least a squad worth of people with you, okay? At a minimum, you're doing that with a fire team, so that if you do come around, if you're in the middle of transitioning from left to right and someone pops out of a door and starts taking pot shots at you, if you get hit or you fall to the ground, the people behind you are picking up slack. They're going to be sending rounds downrange because you can't, because you're switching your weapon between left hand and right hand. Or you're trying to position yourself to get a better peek around that corner without exposing yourself too much. Or if, God forbid, you come around a corner and you do take a round in the chest and go down, body armor, trauma plate or not, you get hit in the chest with a big enough round, you're going to go down. So if your weapon is not slung at that point, it's very likely that you're going to hit the ground and you're going to drop it, and it's going to skitter across the hallway out of your reach. And now you're down to your secondary, and your team is coming up to try and drag your ass out of the line of fire. Okay? Now, if you're by yourself, you just died because you lost your primary weapon. Yeah, you still have your secondary, and hopefully you can fend them off or whatever, but on individual tactics, me in a building alone, or me on a street alone, I'm not going to take any chance at losing that weapon. And I talk to a lot of survivalist type people, and a lot of these videos come out of those conversations, but they'll talk about putting a lanyard on their Swiss Army knife so they don't lose that thing because it's precious, but they'll go through running and gunning scenarios with their weapon not tethered to their body in any way. If you trip over a log, twist your ankle on a rock, fall into a ravine, or take a round and go down hard, that gun, in most cases, is going to be gone. Because you're by yourself. So anything else you have to do with your hands, you're going to have to let go of that weapon in order to do it. So you don't want to have to re-sling and unsling when you're manipulating something else, opening a door or trying to build a fire or whatever you're doing. You don't want to have to be moving your rifle around or leaving it sit somewhere while you do those things. And I know there are a lot of people out there that will tell you, read this manual, read that manual, study this or study that. Well, in most cases, those manuals aren't talking about an individual's survivability, because if you have a fire team, you can tell them, go into that building and clear that building, okay? They're going to have to do that. But that procedure, that tactic that they're employing there is part of a larger picture. It's part of an overall view of the battle space that a commander is looking at. And to be quite honest with you, from a commander's level, that fire team may be expendable, because it's the overall operation, the overall impact on the battle space that they're taking into consideration when they're sitting up at the TOC, sending troops into harm's way. So that squad, or that fire team, or that entire platoon that's involved in that dangerous operation, that commander, that division, or that brigade may see them as acceptable losses if the shit, goes backwards on them. As an individual, I don't have any reinforcements, and I don't have to go into that building. So as a civilian, if I think there's a bad guy in my detached garage in the back, I don't have to go in and get him. So I don't necessarily have to deal with all that cornering, etc., all that transitioning back and forth, because I don't have to go get him. He's in my garage. I can call 911 and keep my gun pointed at the garage and try to contain him in the garage until the cops arrive, or something like that. But if he's running from me and hiding from me, he isn't necessarily a threat to me any longer. So, but he may become a threat again if I go in and try to get him out. You understand what I'm saying? I have a choice as a civilian. I don't have to go in there. I don't have to enter that vacant building and go look for him. If I'm a cop, I may not have a choice. If I'm a soldier, I may not have a choice. If I'm a Marine, a Navy SEAL, or an Army Ranger, I may not have a choice. I've got to go in that building, and that's why they develop these other tactics, but they're never alone. And that's the key point. They are never alone. So, hopefully you're not going to be trying to clear a building by yourself in hostile territory. You're going to be hiding and trying to escape and survive until another day. But those SEER manuals, survival manuals, and things like that, anything that's geared towards the individual's tactics on the ground or in the battle space are imperative, and they should be in your collection. Okay, when I talked about a two-point sling and how that seems to work the best for my type of setup, and I said I really didn't like single-point slings. I'm not saying that single-point slings don't have a usefulness, especially if you're like a SWAT operator, hostage rescue type personnel, Delta, SEAL 6, and you have if you're entering a building with a smaller weapon like an MP5 or a UMP or some of the really short, 10-inch barreled ARs that they have out there now, specifically designed for those types of scenarios, fighting inside houses, hostage rescue type stuff. A single point sling may be perfectly good for that type of stuff, but if you have a longer gun, like an AK or an AR, a single point sling really is going to be inadequate. You're going to find that it's inadequate if you ever have to use your hands a lot and not, firing your weapon at the same time. So that's why I prefer the two-point sling, because I don't have one of those little tiny cool, super soldier guns that those guys get to play with when they're going in and out of buildings. I've got to use a regular size M4 or whatever I have at the time. So it's a longer barrel, it's a longer weapon system, and a single point sling is really kind of inadequate for that, because it's just going to dangle and flop around in front of you. Alright, we're going to go outside.